Greetings, New Zealand naturopath Eric Backer, author of Candida Crusher, formulator of Candida, the Candida dietary supplements of choice. Thanks for checking out my video today. We're going to do another case history today. This is a very interesting case history, and it might really ring a bell with quite a few people out there. This is a lady who's 27 years of age from America. I won't give you her name or tell you where she lives because I try and keep things confidential, with people. This is a vegan patient, and while I've got no issues with veganism, this case history is going to illustrate the problems with veganism when it comes to, SIBO, small intestinal bowel problems, yeast infections, Helicobacter infections, all kinds of different problems. So we'll call this lady Janie, just as a matter of case. Okay, Janie. So Janie's 28, she's got 2 small children. She's been a vegan now for a number of years for various reasons. Now, like a lot of vegans, she needs to get her protein sources other, than meat. So she's going to get it generally from nuts and seeds, and she's also consuming a lot of dairy products. Now, in this case here, we've got a big problem. We've got a woman with serious vaginal yeast infection. We've got a woman also who's got a child with asthma, very bad asthma, and hay fever and skin problems. This can pose quite a few problems. Janie's case, Janie was a meat eater a long time ago, but she started changing really when she was about 16, 17, and she really got rid of all the meat out of her diet. So she got quite serious with being a raw vegan initially. And then she basically left the raw veganism behind and got more into sort of a cooked food approach. But I'm going to convert this lady away from veganism for reasons that you'll see in a minute. She's had a vaginal yeast infection now for quite a few years, and it's been a really big problem with her. In fact, she's also suffered from BV, from bacterial vaginosis, for many years. But her child had a serious asthma attack, when he was about 8 months of age. And she's had to resort to various medications for him, which has left her quite distraught and upset as a mum who doesn't want to see her child taking medications. So what, as a kind of advice I've given this lady, well, she's had many, many different visits to practitioners, and she swapped all different kinds of dietary approaches over the years. But suffice to say, the vegan approach is not really working with this lady. She's feeling very tired, and she's very anemic. Even though she's trying to consume a lot of foods that contain B12 and iron, she's not really hitting the mark with vitamin B12. Just can't seem to get it up unless she supplements with it. She's also got a big problem with anemia, which some vegan patients can experience. So she has got a problem there with her ferritin, with her iron storage protein. It's just not enough there. I'm not about in this video to try and convert vegans to meat eaters at all. I believe it's a complete personal choice. But when your health gets affected because of social issues or particular issues you may have around eating food, I think you need to maybe have a good long hard think at why you're eating like this, and is it really doing your health much good. I have got quite a few patients that are vegans that are in outstanding health, but I've also got many patients that are vegans that are in very poor health. So my personal belief is that we need to eat meat, but only in very small amounts. We don't need to eat large pieces of steak. Another patient I had yesterday told me that her practitioner, a paleo practitioner, told her to focus on lots of lard, lots of fat, lots of meat. I think this lots of sort of approach to diet is not really a valid approach. I believe that everything's in moderation. In fact, I read some interesting research done by Cambridge University in England on how people used to eat a long time ago. I may have mentioned this in another video. And the paleo diets that we eat today are nothing like the paleo diets that paleo man and woman actually lived, how they actually ate food. The Cambridge studies discovered that people didn't eat vast amounts of meat at all. They ate very, very tiny amounts of meat. In fact, the meat that they ate was very lean. It was very low fat. And the paleo man's diet was supplemented with insects and eggs and small animals that could be easily caught. It wasn't huge, big animals that were big hunks of meat roasted over spits and things like this. This is a load of crap. People didn't eat large amounts of meat because big animals were very hard to catch, and they were very dangerous to catch these animals. And it involved the cooperation of dozens and dozens of people to trap this beast and to kill it. So it wasn't really a question of did man eat meat? Yes, man did eat meat, but he and she ate very small amounts of meat. And it was more things like lizards and frogs and small birds, young birds and eggs. The Cambridge study also found that man ate a wide variety of nuts and seeds and berries, and also roots and tubers of plants. So man has always been omnivorous in his approach. And it's only really through domestication of animals that we've been able to, consume larger amounts of meat. Meat eaters today eat way too much meat. I live in New Zealand, in a country with one of the world's highest rates of prostate and bowel cancer. And I can safely say that lamb and beef is way too cheap here, and people eat way too much meat. So I had a lunch today, a stir-fry lunch, consisting of a very small amount of beef. It would have been maybe about 1 or 2 ounces, if that, of beef in the whole dish, suitable for 3 people. And a lot of vegetables from the garden that went into the stir-fry dish. So for the vegan approach, I really, in Janie's case here, I said to Janie, well, why don't we look at something like fresh fish, or maybe a few eggs in the diet from time to time, just to see how you go with that. I really believe it's going to help her immune system and help boost her, her gut function up. It's going to improve her health in many different ways by giving her the right kind of amino acids that her body's really looking for. Aminos you can get from a vegan diet, there's no doubt about it, but it's much harder to get the right kind of amino acids, the essential aminos, from a vegan kind of approach. And as I mentioned, B12 and iron are hard to get in a strictly vegan diet. This lady's immune system is quite appalling. She's sick all the time, which is often something I see with people with low ferritin and iron counts. So, and her child as well needs health improving. So when you have these diet approaches that you decide are right for you, why should they be right for an 18-month-old child if the child's health is not improving? You've got to think about those sort of things. So some of the key foods that I got Janie to stop eating were the nuts, because nuts often are highly allergenic. And I find that many vegan patients I see consume large amounts of nuts like almonds, Brazils, filberts, hazelnuts, and even many consume peanuts, which are a pretty crappy sort of legume. They're not a nut. Pretty crappy choice to eat. This lady was also drinking quite a lot of cow's milk, and even though she's vegan, this whole sort of vegan term is very loose. The whole vegetarian term. Some vegans I speak to actually do have cow's milk and don't consider it an animal food as such, but rather a byproduct. Other vegans I know won't even have leather at all. They'll have no leather shoes or leather belts or anything like that. So it depends how tight you want to live by the term vegan. Many vegetarians I see as patients eat meat. They eat chicken and fish, but they just don't eat red meat. So I can't work that one out, To me, a vegetarian doesn't eat meat, and a vegan doesn't consume animal products. Strict vegans don't even consume honey for that reason. So in Janie's case, I got her to stop all cow's milk, all nuts, and a couple of other allergy foods, bananas in particular. Bananas I find are quite allergy-forming, and are not a very poor food for people with yeast infection. They can create lots of gas and bloating and major digestive upsets. People with leaky gut syndrome don't respond well to bananas in their diet at all. So it's a key food to take out. Plantain bananas, those green ones, cooked in coconut milk, seem to be quite okay. Vegans also, many of them I see, tend to eat way too much fruit. They like to eat fruit because it's one source of sugar for them. So if you are a vegan watching this and you're eating large amounts of fruit, nuts, and dairy products, be aware that it could be affecting your allergic response, and you may be getting symptoms as a consequence. And if you've got low iron count and poor B12 levels, and you eat these allergy-forming foods, you can have many different health problems that a lot of practitioners are running around in circles trying to fix for you. Or in fact, you may be doing yourself a disservice by sticking with this strict kind of diet approach. So I'm working with this lady now with an antifungal, so I've put her on my Candida Remove. That's one of the first products I've got her on. I've got her off the dairy products. I've got her on small amounts of cheese. She's on a little bit of Edam and mozzarella cheese, just small amounts. Got her on coconut products. We've got her off all the nuts. I've allowed a few seeds in the diet, a few sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds. Sesame seeds I've taken out, and all the nuts we've taken out. And some of the key allergy foods that I've looked at with Janie would be cow's milk, oranges, bananas, pineapple. Chocolate is another food which Janie was eating way too much of. Vegans seem to think that cocoa, cacao, and these sorts of things are quite good treats and they're healthy, but they're not in fact, because cocoa and chocolate have a very strong allergic potential for many kinds of people, so these foods are gone. I expect this patient to improve leaps and bounds, and then we're going to start looking really at implementing a good fermented and cultured dietary protocol as part of what she's doing, because it's quite hit and miss at the moment. So I'll keep you posted on how Janie goes, and we've also put the child on quite a special diet to improve the asthma. And with her older child, we're looking at Buteyko breathing, which I'm a big fan of, to allow the child to breathe properly and balance the carbon dioxide and oxygen levels to get a good result there. So that's just a little bit about the case of Janie, the 28-year-old vegan with major yeast infection. Last point I'll leave you with, I've got her to read chapter 5 out of my book, Candida Crusher, to understand on the correct vaginal local approach using the boric acid, the two-stage treatment, the build and the kill phase. And that's going to work beautifully with her to get her body back to good functioning again. Thanks for tuning in.